Here's something that I want you to observe. It's the level of noise that was made when Xbox was pursuing other users outside of its console platform compared to PlayStation. Because now the narrative is shifting. You're not going to hear anybody raise a stink about it, including those within the Xbox ecosystem who were maybe pundits that criticize Xbox for this particular thing. Let me go ahead and show you. If you go as far back as 2016, you're going to see something very interesting. There's a tweet that I made this chart, it's a timeline of some kind. It's a wonky one. There's a set of tweets that were very interesting. This was from a user named The Crap Gamer is 100% American and Phil Spencer. In this particular line of tweets, they're going back and forth as Crap Gamer cancels his Quantum Break pre-order on Xbox because the game was going to PC. I hope you guys remember this. This is where Phil Spencer basically, asked a very important question that you're going to cancel a pre-order for a game that you want to play because it's going on Windows. And since then, I think there's been a very interesting, interaction from this Crap Gamer to Phil Spencer, of which he has not even bothered to worry about. Rather, he wants to sail the Xbox ship through these muddy waters. There's also another thing that is of note, and that is PlayStation's pivot as well to start making its way to the PC platform. This was documented in the PlayStation blog March of 2020. This particular blog showed Herman Holst pointing out that they thought Horizon Zero Dawn was a good fit for the PC platform. They also committed at the time, though, that they weren't interested in moving other games that they had to the PC platform, of which that has changed drastically. I mean, are you kidding me? If you think about it, right now, PlayStation is pining to drop games. In fact, they are accidentally launching PC trailers. Ain't that something? With Stellar Blade having its trailer be launched and unlaunched, I guess it's supposed to maybe create a buzz, if you get what I mean, because right now, PlayStation doesn't have as many games as Xbox. In fact, it's not close in this 2025 year. Perhaps next year there might be a different conversation, but as of now, it is a bloodbath if you actually look at who's pumping out games versus who can't. And so with this reality, it appears that PlayStation is now downplaying its emphasis on console sales because it's a risky business. And the media is already now pushing very subtly this new reality that Xbox has been chasing for almost a decade now with a barrage of, pellets and concerns and complaints, and in some cases lies, and in some cases just pure fomented misinformation. But look at how they handle PlayStation. Sony aims to sell 15 million PS5 units this year. Great. They could have stopped it there. Back then they used to stop the articles there, but it's shifting focus to monthly active users. Interesting perspective. When you ask PlayStation, how do you intend to get more monthly active users? They're going to have to depend on third-party games to do so, seeing that their first-party titles, in terms of sales compared to third-party, are dwindling. This is 2 quarters in a row where first-party game sales are down. Q4 of last year, the same thing happened. Now, not only are they going to have to depend on these games, they're also going to have to depend on live service games. If you notice, Destiny 2 is coming out with Year of Prophecy. This is charting right now. Helldivers 2 is coming out with another DLC. They've been able to kind of nail down an audience there, and they want to bring Marathon to everyone. These games are going to be their avenue into pursuing a rise in monthly active users. And so even after they had closed down a lot of these live service projects that they were working on, they still intend to get more live service games out there and test them out till it sticks, because even their single player titles cannot bring in as much money now as a successful live service game. In fact, do y'all remember Shuhei Yoshida's comments when he said, who would have thought, hold on, let me see if I can find it. Who would have thought that Helldivers 2 would outsell Horizon or so. Let me see if we can find it. There we go. Somewhere around here when he did that big interview with what's the name? With good old Greg over Kind of Funny Games. In the whatchamacallit, in the blogs here, they're talking about it because Helldivers 2 outsold a single player game. So now that PlayStation has tested out this particular paradigm and understand that it works, they're going to go in with it. During the quarterly conference call, let's read the article. Shout out to this writer, Giuseppe Nelva of Simulation Daily. Sony CEO Hiroki Totoki and CFO Lin Tao talked about the state of PlayStation business and the strategy and targets going forward. Totoki-san mentioned during the live streamed presentation that the PlayStation business is doing extremely well. The expansion of PS5, both in the number of active users and spend per user, is expected to continue and drive steady profit. Looking ahead, Sony seeks to capitalize on this momentum to drive stable profitable growth and invest thoroughly to create the future of play. Sony expects to see stable growth in revenue of profits for the network business due to growth of monthly users corresponding to the further expansion of the PS5 installed base. Specifically, the company expects higher revenue profits from PlayStation Plus and aims to maximize ARPU, which is average revenue per user. They're going to farm y'all of the PlayStation Store through personalization and pricing optimization. That they're going to raise prices on it. They've been doing it. They're going to raise it more. This is why you're seeing PlayStation users that are financially conscientious actually talk about how the difference in quality between Game Pass and PlayStation Plus doesn't match. Do you see what's going on here? It's only hardcore PlayStation users or the ones that don't care at all that are going to stay in this ecosystem. If they continue and they don't have a value proposition close, this is where Xbox has them in a checkmate. They're going to bleed users. In the current fiscal year, for 2025 and 2026, Sony expects further growth for its first-party studios due to user expansion driven by single-player narrative games like Ghost of Yotei and live service games like Marathon, if Marathon succeeds. On top of the continued success of games that have already been launched and ongoing live services like Helldivers 2 and Destiny 2, Sony also plans to focus on stronger profitable peripherals, such as PlayStation Portal, on which the recently introduced beta cloud streaming allows you to enjoy games on the go more easily. The company expects to implement, Totoki-san also mentioned Sony's responses to the tariffs imposed by the United States, explaining that PlayStation has been making preparations such as diversifying hardware production sites, stockpiling inventory in the U.S. The company expects to implement additional measures at the appropriate time after assessing any changes in the situation going forward. Responding to a question later in the call, Tao mentioned that Sony produces PS5 and its peripherals in 4 countries. While a large part of said production is in China, the supply chain has been diversified. She also added that the amount of inventory present in the U.S. is enough for 3 months of distribution. Interesting. That's what the sell-in and sell-through numbers are. Remember, that's 77.5 million. Those are just shipments. Okay? They're pumping out the numbers to basically ensure that they hedge themselves in the event that tariffs get in effect, even though there are negotiations still going on. Tao mentioned that during the past 14 quarters, monthly active users for PlayStation have always been increasing year on year. PS4 continues to be used actively, and that's a pretty conspicuous difference from previous generational shifts. So now, all of that nonsense noise that's been made the whole while is now very much acceptable. So Xbox can now continue doing business as now it's now going to be acceptable in the eyes of everybody else. What a bunch of bollocks that these people had been spreading all this while. At the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, this is so interesting that as much as the noise has been made, Sony is also expecting a solid performance of third-party games and has not included any revenue from GTA 6 in its forecast since it's been delayed to May 2026, which is beyond the end of the fiscal year. It's a very interesting outlook that these so-called consoles, which carry this proposition of, our single-player games first, seem to have to now depend on third-party games, whether they be in their ecosystem or potential shipments in the future. The gaming business has changed. The thing that used to be attractive about the console was all a mirage. As long as idiots believed it, the business was profitable. But now that people are starting to be much more conscientious about their wallets, about the monies that they're spending, it appears to me that people are now going to have to look for a way to spend their money in a way that provides them more value. And Xbox is positioned to do that. And PlayStation right now needs an answer to that. Else, they keep charging and billing their audiences more money. Talk to me in the comment section. Thanks for watching the video. Peace out.